Hello and welcome back to Universal Class. In this lesson, we're going to go over editing cells, rows, columns, and worksheets. Editing cell data. In the old days of pencil and paper or a typewriter, making changes to anything was a hassle. You had to use that messy whiteout fluid, or even worse, take an eraser and chance leaving a smudge mark or tearing the paper. Excel 2013 makes creating and editing spreadsheets a lot easier because correcting errors is mess-free. To be able to edit data in a cell, you need to first put a cell in active mode, and you can do this by selecting the cell and pressing the F2 function 2 key. So let's go to Tuesday. That puts the cursor in there. Of course, you can also just double-click in there. Now you can type at the end of the data. You can use the backspace to delete data. When you've finished, simply hit Enter or click another cell to save your changes. Using the find function. Let's say you want to find the number 1750 in your spreadsheet, and you have a large spreadsheet, so you don't know where this number, this magic number 1750 is. You want to use the find function, which you can use by clicking on the Home tab and then clicking on the Find and Select in the Edit group. So we're going to go to the Home tab and we're going to go over to the Editing group. And it seems to be a little bit off screen here, so let me just move this over. And we're going to go to Find and Select, and we have options for Find and Replace. So let's go use the Find function here. There's two tabs, Find or Find and Replace. And we said we wanted to find anything that said 1750, so let's just go to 1750, type that in and see what happens. Let's just find the next one. Oh, and it found it. So you can see it went right to the 1750 there. Is there any other ones? No. The replacement feature would work similarly. Just if we click on the Replace tab here, we can say, oh, I want to change anything that's 1750 to be 1850. And it'll ask us, do you want to place everything? Just replace this one, find next, and then determine what to do. But in this case, we only know we're going to just select Replace All. And we're going to watch that 1750 here change to 1850. And it says all done. We made one replacement. Okay. And so that's how you use the Find and Replace function, which you can find under the Home tab, and it's under Editing. The Go-To feature is also useful. We've mentioned this before. To use the Go-To feature, you want to go to the Home tab and then select the Find and Select Again group. So let's come over here under Editing and go to Find and Select. And then we have a Go-To here. And here we can just type in the cell's name if we know it. If you want to go to a specific cell, such as D9, because that's the revenue for Wednesday's hot dogs, you could say D9, hit Enter, and it'll go right to that cell. So the Go-To function is useful, particularly again for large worksheets. The Undo and Redo functions are really important. They're up here, so let's say I made a change of 1850 here, but I decided that wasn't a good change. I can go right now to Undo, which we can also use the keyboard shortcut of Control-Z, and it changes it back to 1750. But then we might have changed our mind again and said, no, make that back to 1850. So we go over here for the Redo option. We click that and it goes back to 1850. It can also undo several actions back if you click the down arrow key. These are all the recent actions I've made, and I could go through and undo any of them. Same with the redo functions. If you undo a lot of things, you could use Control-Y to undo what you've undone. You can also lock rows and columns by splitting panes. You can view two areas of a worksheet and lock rows and columns into one place by splitting panes. When you split panes, you can scroll in the two areas of the worksheet that you've locked, but the non-scrolled areas remain visible. Let's say we want the split to appear here. We always want to be able to see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the days of the week. So we're going to select row 4. So now we're going to go to the View tab and click Split in the Window group. So we're going to go over to the View tab here. And now we're going to select Split in the Window tab. So here is the window. So we're going to select split in the window group, and that is up here. Split, divide the window into different panes that each scrolls separately. So we're going to use the split function right here. Now we've created our split. Let's unclick this just so you can see. We've got a sort of darker gray double line here. Now notice we have two scroll bars over here. So we can scroll now this information while this information also is scrollable. And we can also probably move it up there if we wanted to. We can change the size of it. And this can be useful because we're splitting the window in two different areas. So we can, keep the days on top if we wanted and be able to always see that while we're looking at the numbers that correspond to these days in these columns. Now we haven't changed any of the data or the actual formatting of the data in the spreadsheet. We've only altered the view, our view of the data, yet we have kept the integrity of the data. Now a common question is, how do we undo this? And we just click the split window again feature up here, and that undoes it. Locking rows and columns by freezing panes, which is similar to actually splitting the window, but in this case we're going to lock it in place. So we're not going to be splitting the window, and it's not going to be scrollable. This is an important difference between splitting a window and freezing and locking rows and panes. Let's say we want to lock row 3 into place. So we're going to go to row 4, and we're going to use the freeze panes options, and we're going to say there's some default options here, which is freeze top row, keep the top row visible while scrolling through the rest of the worksheet. We can do the freeze first column, which works similarly. These are probably the most common items we want to freeze and lock. But in this case, we're just going to do it based on our current selection. So we're going to say freeze right there, and now we've frozen it. And now when we scroll, again, there's not two scroll bars. Okay, this is not a split window. We are now freezing this top row here like this. And we can also do it the same with the column. So we can, if we wanted to freeze this column so that popcorn, candy, and drinks, no matter how far we scroll over here, will always be visible, we can also freeze that. And again, we highlighted this column and we have to select freeze, and we just say freeze the first column. So, and to undo that, we can go to freeze panes and we just can say unfreeze panes. Unlock all rows and columns to scroll through the entire thing. So we're going to unfreeze everything, bring it back to normal. Spell check is important, of course. As you work on a worksheet or after you complete it, naturally you want to check it for typos and misspelled words. Excel 2013 will help you check your worksheets for typos and misspelled words using a feature called Spellcheck. Keep in mind, Spellcheck should never be used as a substitute for proofreading it yourself because there are some mistakes that it just won't catch. But it is an excellent helper and shortens the editing time. To use Spellcheck, click on the Review tab. So let's go to the Review tab, which is right here. And we just click on the ABC icon here. And it'll say, do you want to continue checking at the beginning of the spreadsheet? We say yes, and spell check complete. It didn't find any spelling errors, but let's make a spelling error so that it can find something. We misspelled food. And let's go back to review, and go to spelling, and then immediately finds it. And he gives us suggestions, and we say, yeah, change all. And it says, spell check complete, you're good to go. There's further options for customizing how spell check, dictionaries, and proofing is done on Excel, depending on your use of Excel. And we'll go over those options briefly. If we go under the File tab and we select Options, there's a whole section dedicated to proofing. And here we can change how spell check works, how autocorrect works. This is all here. We can say ignore words in uppercase, ignore words that contain numbers, ignore internet and file addresses, flag repeated words is checked, enforce accented uppercase in French, suggest from main dictionary only. There's several dictionary, you can choose different dictionaries. You can set your autocorrect options here, you know, what it's going to do based on if you've misspelled you without an apostrophe, it'll automatically add the apostrophe for you. If you have specific typos that you commonly make that you would like them to be automatically replaced with, you could enter it here. Other things, there's auto format as you type. There's advanced options. There's also math autocorrecting. So there's a bunch of options for you to customize the way that autocorrect and spelling work for your spreadsheet. So you may want to take a look, particularly if you make common errors that are not auto-corrected, you may want to take a look here so that you can get those for you personally set up. One last item we're going to go over in this lesson is the track changes of Excel. And again, say we're on the Home tab here. Again, this is all found under the Review tab here. Under Track Changes, have you ever edited something then realized you liked it better the way it was? Or have you ever edited something someone else wrote and wished there were a way to communicate your thoughts without typing in their document or worksheet? If either of these situations have applied to you, then learning how to use track changes and comments in Excel 2013 is useful. Track changes gives you the ability to edit or change data in the worksheet and make note of those changes. Excel 2013 will make note of the changes by highlighting the outside of the cell with a different color. In the upper left-hand corner of a cell, an inverted triangle will also appear. Clicking on that will tell you exactly what changes have been made, so you know what you've added, what you've deleted, and what formatting changes you have made. This also helps when you have several people changing and editing a workbook. To turn on Track Changes in Excel 2013, go to the Review tab and click Track Changes in the Changes group, then select Highlight Changes. So let's go do that. We're going to go to the Review tab and we're going to say Track Changes, and we're going to select Highlight Changes. And then we're going to check this box that says Track Changes while editing. This also shares your workbook. And there's some additional options we could have. Highlight which changes, but the defaults right now that we have are good enough. Now, this action will now save the workbook. Do you want to continue? And we say, select OK. Yes, we want to continue. Now, everything that we do will be tracked. So let's say that we're now going to change some numbers here. We're going to make Tuesday 800. Oh, there's a purplish, bluish box, it looks like, and it's telling us, oh, someone changed something here. Cosmo Kramer on August 26 changed cell C5 from $700 to $800. Let's change this one. And again, if we click here, it'll tell us, if we rest the mouse over this, it tells us what happened. Now, eventually, when you give this spreadsheet to someone else, they'll be able to say, oh, you changed this number and you changed this number. Okay. Now, we may make these changes and decide down the road, yes, these changes are correct. There's a way to accept these changes. And to accept these changes, we would come here and say accept or reject changes. So we're going to click that option and it'll say, yes, do you want to continue? Okay. And which changes? Not yet reviewed. And we're going to select OK. And then it's going to ask us, what do we want to do with these changes? We're going to accept them. We could accept all the changes, or we could go through each change. Do we agree with this change? Let's just go through each one of these. We accepted that, and it says, do we accept this change? And we select yes. You can also add comments to individual cells in a worksheet to question the data or provide some other input. Excel 2013 will make note of that comment that was inserted into the worksheet by placing a red triangle in the upper right corner of the cell where it was added. The comment will appear in a pop-up box near the cell. To add a comment, select the cell where you want to add the comment. So let's say we want to add a comment to Friday. And we go to the Review tab, and then we select New Comment. And we say, thank goodness it's Friday. And we click off it to save it. Now we have a red triangle here at the upper right corner of this box, which when we rest our mouse over it tells us what the comment is. Now if we don't want to see that comment anymore, we can simply right-click here and select Delete Comment, and the comment's gone. You can also add comments by right-clicking on any cell and selecting Insert Comment.